jagged lines may, that was your back attack time. And now you get the smooth lines. Let's see if I can go back to the smooth line screen. And just ask it for today's session. Today's pre and post. There you go. So that's mighty nice. Yeah. Mr. Butch got his brain waved. There he is. Mr. Brainwave. I always said I was going to tape you about your surfing adventures, but not in wires like.
What was the brainwave like?
Yeah.
Wasn't there some kind of a poem that said there's much to do about nothing?
Yeah, that's it. There was a poem like that. I think
Shakespeare said something like that. He probably was on the brainwave when he said that.
What you do about nothing, just being able to get relaxed like
yeah,
that.
I mean, it's cool. It's like, just kind of zonk out. It's kind of like smoking a low-profile joint or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Caroline told me it was like drinking some sherry. She said low-profile wine.
Well, I never stopped at enough alcohol just to feel mellow, so I wouldn't know about that. But it's, I guess it might be, 3 beers sometimes I drink before I went out, so I could not be too nervous when I got to the bar to get bombed. But yeah, it's just good. It's a good way to relax, and you don't feel like you want to. I don't know. I guess the music stopped or something at the end, and you feel like it's time to kind of get up. But before that, you don't feel like you want to do anything except what you're doing, which is kind of like pot. Whatever you're doing, which is nothing.
Drifting, I call it.
It's good drifting, and I'm good at doing nothing. There's only one problem with doing nothing. That's it. You never know when you're finished, but you fake it.
Yeah, maybe we can bottle this stuff and sell it.
Yeah, it's probably, hopefully it's still legal.
Yeah, it's still legal.
So that's good.
The FAA finds out about it, not the Federal Aviation. They don't care about drifting.
FCC,
but the Federal Communication
radio waves, yeah. One thing, I don't know if they'll make it illegal, but they'll damn sure tax it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But what are the people that are in charge of drugs? What are those people?
Crooks.
Yeah, the crooks, but what's the agency that regulates drug use? Is it
Health, Education, and Welfare. Or Food and Drug Administration.
FDA, yeah, that's what it is.
FDA. But that was, Sinclair Lewis started that. He was trying to write a book about socialism and ended up talking about the pigs in the sausage factory, and it started the FDA.
Really? Wow, I never knew that history.
Yeah, The Jungle was the name of it, I think, the book. Sinclair Lewis. He ran for president about 7 times. I don't think he ever made it.
I didn't know he'd run for president either. Wow. I'm getting educated now.
Maybe he didn't. He may, but I think he ran for governor of California quite a few times. But I think he ran for president, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well look it up on Google now. We can find out what is a fact and what is not.
That was the name of the book, The Jungle. It was a pretty good book. I remember it was one of those books you had to read, and I read it and liked it. Might have been the only one.
Yeah, I remember Bob Moorcock wanted you to tell the
surfing story, yeah.
The surfing stories. Do you have a surfing story you want to tell?
I saw an amazing, I was reading about Bob Cooper, this friend of mine in Australia, and he was talking about in the old days of Malibu when he was surfing there. And he was a Mormon. He was a very good surfer, but they always had the finals on Sunday.
Yeah.
So then he would be in the finals, but he couldn't go because he was a Mormon and he couldn't surf on Sunday. So people said, "Hey, why do you even get in these contests? You knock somebody out that could at least be in the finals." And so I don't. But anyway, he's still a Mormon, nice guy. But he was talking about, and it's been so long that I'd almost forgotten how kind of self-indulgent surfing has gotten. Look at me now, kind of.
Yeah.
But he said, at the beginning it was never about what we did on the waves or how we surfed or anything. it was all about the waves. And I can remember, you know, it's like, you got to go catch the biggest wave because that's how you're going to get, you know, that's what makes your day. That's what makes you happy. So if you get the biggest wave or the best wave or the longest ride or whatever it was all about the waves. And then it just switched over into, it's all about the people and what they do on the waves, you know.
Yeah.
So now it's different. But the waves are still the most important thing. You know, I mean, the guy said once, he said, it's all about the drop, and that's just taking that big drop, you know, and making that. And the rest of it is kind of, you know, I mean, it's cool, and it's cool when you're in the tube or whatever, or riding the nose or whatever you're doing, but the drop is the thrill, you know, that's the deal. And, you know, you can be as good as you want, but if the waves are no good, then it's, you know, that's it. You know, if you live in a flat land, you'd never be a great skier, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, Patrick wants to be a great ice hockey player, and I said, well, most of them are born in Canada, you know, or...
Well, that's because most of Canada's cold.
Yeah, exactly.
But now they can make ice, but they haven't been too successful at making waves.
No, that's true. You can, in fact, he says that maybe one of his is going to have a ice hockey rink in the backyard. That's what he said.
Well, that's not as difficult to do as having a surf break in your backyard.
You can't do that.
Well, you can.
Oh gosh, I think I remember in San Diego they had a tank that you could where you could ride surf.
Yeah, that's kind of a funky one, but they had a guy doing it with huge bubbles, which is amazing. I never think of that one. I thought of things that, you know, like when a boat goes by, creates a wake.
Right.
Well, that's water displacement.
Right.
And that will make waves. So if you get like an aircraft carrier or a battleship, if you could get it to run by Virginia Beach, you could have amazing waves. Of course, it costs you $50,000 an hour to make a wave, and you'd have to get 50,000 people surfing at $1 an hour to break even. Tough, but anyway, the idea of bubbles is amazing because you can just get this huge pipe. The guy did it at Virginia Beach, and that was a little blonde-headed guy. I can't remember his name now. And when you have that bubble of air coming up through the water, it's just like it creates a water displacement. So that huge bubble, that water will go towards land or go wherever. It'll go 360 degrees, actually, go everywhere. And if you get a big enough bubble, you can make waves.
Yeah, that's very cool.
As opposed to in the bathtub, which is, it's hard to ride. It's not very big, but it's not a very big bubble you make in the bathtub. So it's the difference, I guess. I don't know.
What year was it, and when did you first hear about surfing?
When you and I were fishing on the wooden pier, we caught all those spot.
I remember catching the spot, and that the bucket broke when we went in the elevator at the Mayflower.
Well, I know we got back and we gave away a whole bunch of fish. I don't know if that was at the Mayflower. It would have been past the Mayflower.
Oh, okay, that was another bunch of spots then.
Yeah, and then we went, and I remember the guys were surfing on the south side of the pier, and you know, I thought because I used to ride a raft, I thought that was cool. And I think we might have been at 50th Street then. Because that's where we got the paddleboard the first time.
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah.
Had a cork in it.
Yes, and it didn't matter, but you might as well not have had the cork because it filled up with water too quick anyway. And then we came back to the house and we gave away a bunch of fish. And I guess we took a nap or had lunch or something. And then we went back to the pier.
Yeah.
And caught more fish. And this is like 4 or 5 hours later, and these same guys are out there in the water, still hooting and hollering and screaming and laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, I can't play tennis for 4 or 5 hours and still be as excited as these guys, or football, or bats, or any sport.
Yeah.
There must really be something to this surfing thing, and that's what got me, you know, the thing. And then we got the paddleboard, and you couldn't hardly catch a wave with that thing because it filled up with water.
Well, did you get that from Bob Holland, or what?
No, that was the paddle board. The first board I got was from Bob Holland, but we went down to Coach's Sporting Goods to get a board, and you were pretty stoked too. And that was we had to put a deposit on a pink Health Waves, which was a pop out, which is a terrible board. Actually, Bobby Chinman ended up with that board because there weren't any boards in Virginia Beach. But anyway, we put a deposit on that. And then Bob Holland said, that's who I tried to go surfing with Bob once. I couldn't stand up because I was using his kids board and I was fat. And because I weighed 205 pounds, I remember. And anyway, Bob said, well, he was getting a shipment of boards, and I remember going over there and I saw this big red board, you know, and I said, oh, Bob, I gotta have this red one. I gotta have this red one. He said, well, you know, Skip Rawls has the first choice, because he said, I said, you know, Skip he's not the kind of guy that would want a red surfboard. Only an idiot like me would want a red surfboard, you know. And he goes, I think you're right there. So I got the red one. Granddaddy wrote a check for $127.50.
Wow. And what year was that? You were a high school senior, or?
Yeah,
What is he,
maybe
18
a
or
college
so?
freshman.
College.
17 maybe.
Yeah.
17, I don't know. I had so many freshman years, I could have been 18, 19, 20, it didn't matter. I had a lot of freshman years. I must have enjoyed freshman year, that was fun. But anyway, yeah, so that's how we got started with surfing there at 50th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. And that first year I rode a wave with a dolphin, the only time I ever done that.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It was from me to you. I mean, I could have if I wasn't scared to death. And I knew it was a dolphin.
Right.
And the blowhole thing came out and actually blew the salt water, I guess, on me.
Yeah.
But they are really big when you get close to them.
Right.
And I'd seen them in the nets, you know, Mr. Midget down there at Sandbridge and everything like that. Seen him on the beach and everything. But boy, when they're next to you riding a wave,
Yeah.
and he kind of looked, I thought he looked at me, who knows. So he said, what are you doing, man? Get down here with us.
That's as close as you could get to being with them.
Yeah, and I've you know, seen a lot of dolphin out there, but I've never ridden another wave with one. I've seen them ride waves here, Australia too, and so anyway. But that was right there on 50th Street riding that wave with it. I was so scared I couldn't fall off. I petrified.
So even though you had many freshman years in college, Granddaddy still bought you that board?
Yeah, he actually, and he threatened to take it away too. He said if I didn't get a haircut, I don't know that I was trying to grow my hair long, but I spent every hour, every minute I could in the water surfing, you know, because I told you I weighed 205 pounds when I started surfing. And 2 weeks later, I weighed 185 pounds.
Wow.
20 pounds, 2 weeks. Not trying to lose weight, just surfing.
Right, just
working construction for Mr. Kessler during the day and then surfing all day.
yeah.
Before, you know, work at 7 and then after work at 4 or whatever that was. And but Grandy says, you've got to get a haircut today by 12 o'clock or I'm going to come chop that surfboard in half.
Wow.
I said, chop it. I said, Granddaddy wouldn't chop that surfboard in half. Would he? I don't know. Kind of like a John Waring story. You'd never know. He might be telling the truth. He never has before, but he might be telling the truth. Anyway, I got there and I remember out there surfing and somebody had a frogman watch at the time, were the only kind that would tell time in the water. And I kept saying, what time is it? What time is it? He goes, 10 after 11. Okay. And it was the biggest day of the year. We called it Big Wednesday. Apparently it was a Wednesday, I guess. Anyway, finally, what time is it? It's 20 to 12 or something. Okay, one more wave. I gotta go. When I went, and I remember getting a haircut at like 5 minutes to 12. I ran in there and getting a haircut right by the Bain Theater there across the street.
Yeah.
And I could see people catching waves, riding waves across Atlantic Avenue, out in the ocean.
Yeah.
That's how big it was. It's huge. And anyway, I got a haircut, and Granddaddy never came down and chopped up the board. I don't think he ever had any intentions of doing that.
But he did require that you
Got
give
a haircut.
something
Well,
back.
he knew that he could hold that over my head. You
Yeah.
know, that was it. Couldn't have been money, couldn't have been beatings or taking the car away. I wouldn't care. But that surfboard, oh no, I'd do anything for that. You know, keep that board. I paid for it. So I get to do whatever I want to with it.
And then what happened? How'd you get the surf shop? Was that the next adventure in your
I guess so,
surfing
yeah.
career?
Well, you know, I was just surfing, and then that summer I learned how to surf. The next summer I went out to California.
So it'd be like 59 or so.
No, that's probably
60?
60 or
60, 61?
61.
Okay.
And it might have been 62.
I got
think
married
the
in
first-
62, so.
I think.
You had that surf shop, didn't you, before I got married?
No, I didn't have a surf shop until 60. I had already been to Hawaii. That was like 65. I had that.
Okay. Okay, so maybe that was when Marty was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I was back in Virginia Beach.
And 50th Street, when we lived at 50th Street. Yeah, but how I got that was I'd gone to California and then I came back and then I met Rusty Miller, who was a surfer from California, and he rode Jacobs boards and Bob Holland was selling Jacobs. But then that fall, Hobie Alter and Bosco Barnes, his shop manager, came over and they knew about Pete because Pete had written Hobie a letter or something, the golf ranch, and they went there and they met him and Pete said, hey, we're going to go down to, and so like Pete Smith and Bob Holland, myself, well, went with Hobie and Bosco down to Hatteras, North Carolina, because the surf was real big, but it was northeast. Anyway, we rode down there, and of course I was the youngest guy, but Bosco and I guess, I mean, Hobie especially was trying to find a dealer in Virginia Beach. So I don't think at the time that Bob had ever met Hap Jacobs, but he had ordered boards from him and stuff because of Les Arndt, another guy from California. But so anyway, then Hobie talked to Bob and he said that did Bob want to do Hobie surfboards? And Bob said, yeah, okay. And he and Pete were going to do that. And so then I said, well, what are you going to do with Jacobs surfboards? And he said, well, I guess I won't sell them anymore. And so I said, well, I'm going out to California and I'll talk to Hap Jacobs out there. So I talked to him out there and I got some boards and brought them back on my car.
How'd you get the money?
I think he trusted me.
Oh, wow.
And then I had some money. I think that money was from Grandma's mahjong money that we got.
Okay.
And so I had enough money to start. Well, it wasn't much because I wouldn't pay him for the boards until I sold them,
Okay.
or at the end of the month or something. So I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, so I just rented that place and actually that was Mr. Strokehart. Now that was later on. But anyway, $100 a month, and Dick England, I paid him in beer, and he built the racks and the cabinets and stuff in there, and put a mattress in the back, and I was in business. And the best thing that happened was a guy came from Ocean City, Maryland, I think, and bought a board, and he put down $25 something. He wanted to take it back to Ocean City, Maryland. I said, no way, I can't let you do that. And he said, how about if I leave you my whole stereo system? This huge stereo system, speakers this high, and all these albums and everything, Bob Dylan and everything. And I said, well, okay. I figured that was worth more than the board. So anyway, TJ Davis hooked it up, and then my little surf shop, I had this humongous stereo system. We had the best parties in there, man. It was acoustical, beautiful stuff. That was great. I did some crazy stuff in that surf shop. People would call it a sud shop because we drank in there all the time. And plus there's a mattress in the back for partying too, and it was a mess.
You ever make any money?
Actually, I probably ended up like breaking even or something. I sold quite a few boards. I mean, I'd get about, somewhere around 8 or 10 boards a week, and I'd sell them every week.
Wow. What did Granddaddy think of that?
He knew, he saw right through it. He knew what I was doing, just using that so I wouldn't have to work, so I could party and surf and get drunk and bring the girls to the surf shop and listen to the music.
So, did he say anything to you about it, or no?
No, I know he and Grandma rode by a couple times, and I think maybe walked in, looked around, and went, Jesus, what is this shit? I don't know, but he didn't say anything. I mean, he knew he'd spread his wild oats too, so he knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was fun,
And then you got out of that business and...
I found out, I went back to college. I actually went back to college, and the next year when I had the shop, maybe I had it there 2 years, and then I went to 22nd Street. And then I had gone to Florida during the winter for something with Wallace Cook, and I was reading some I think Time magazine, and some word was in there. I can't remember the word, But I knew the word, but I couldn't think of the meaning of it, and I couldn't even get the meaning from the context. And I said, boy, you're just a dumb bastard. I said, you better go back to college and learn something because you're dumb. So I did. I went back to summer school and learned out that I really was dumb. And I flunked math and finance, which was not hard at all, but I didn't do the homework. And I said, Dr. Shaw said, he wrote the book, you don't do homework, you don't come to crash, you will flunk. And I flunked. And even though I passed the test, I didn't do the other thing, so he flunked me. And then I went back after that and did okay, and finally had to have a guy change a grade when I was one of my junior years, and then I told him I wouldn't let him down, and then I had a reason to study, so I did study some and finally graduated. But
What year was that?
1970,
70.
just in time to get Uncle Arthur's money
Yeah.
to go to Australia. Spend that.
And that was the first time you went to Australia?
Yeah.
And then you met
Yvonne on the way
Yvonne.
back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Grandma started getting sick, or was she sick before you left?
She was always, I remember taking her blood pressure at, 50th
Yeah.
Street a lot.
Uh-huh.
And then she had tremendous blood pressure, like 220 over 120,
Yeah.
something like that. I can't really remember. She used to write it down every day, and Uncle Walter would look at it. Well, what the hell are you going to do? She said, just look at your blood pressure. Whoa!
But they didn't have medicine, I guess, then for blood
I
pressure.
guess probably not, but sounded like bass drums when you put the stethoscope in there and listen to
Yeah, I
the
can
boom,
remember
boom.
that.
Jesus. But
So
anyway.
did that have anything to do with you wanting to go to Australia to get away from all that illness?
No.
No?
Just having the money and just being adventurous, I guess, and I guess originally I wanted to go with just all kinds of neat things that something about Australia always, I wanted to go, and I don't know exactly why. I read one thing in a National Geographic way back, and it was about a guy who was, because I'm sure they discovered opals a long time ago, but this guy was out in the opal country, and he was mining opals, and he sold, he was making some pretty good money. So he decided he'd build a swimming pool in his house. So he dug for the swimming pool, and he made more money than it cost for the swimming pool out of the opals he found in the ground digging the swimming pool. And I said, now that's a good job there. I like that one.
Yeah.
You could dig swimming pools and double your money with the opals and get paid for making a swimming pool.
So when you were young, or like in that era, you never thought, gee, should I grow up to be a responsible guy like Granddaddy? And,
I thought that when I was like a junior in high school, and I took college boards, and I didn't do very well. And I said, Jesus, I'm just going to be a bum. I'm stupid, and I'll never amount to anything. And then I took them again when I was a senior, and I said, oh boy, I did pretty well. And I said, oh boy, I'm smart. I'll go to UVA and be smart and be like, whatever I want to be. And neither one of those things is true. This is very seldom, I think, is a defining thing in your life, except for me. Riding the first wave was probably a defining moment. That was, the rest of it went out the window after that, pretty much.
But I kind of remember when you were young, like 15, like maybe the first time you drank or so, and I said, why are you drinking? Because your parents drank. And I think you said you didn't want to be responsible. You didn't want to get married or have kids, and you were just going to let me do that. Something like that.
Hey, it's Nostradamus Maloney right here.
Yeah. But do you think that is
I don't know, but that's the kids that, when you ask them what they're doing when they're 15 years old, and they said, I'm going to become the best heart surgeon in the world, and they end up doing it, or Olympic runners, or, whatever it is,
Yeah.
Ask Tiger Woods when he was, what are you going to do? I'm going to be the best golfer in the world, and he was. Now, I don't know how many kids say that, but he meant it, and he did it,
Right. But the only thing you really felt that way about was surfing.
I just felt like, that was the most fun thing I'd ever done in my life, yeah. And it just, like, what are you going to be, a butcher, baker, candlestick maker? I'm going to be a surfer, that's what I was. And, I was for years, and then alcohol interfered and ended up winning. But then surfing came back, and now it's winning. And much easier on you when surfing's winning. Even though you get some bumps and bruises and stuff, it's still better than alcohol.
But it never really made any sense to you. My parents drank and their lives turned to such trash, and I don't want that happen to me.
Well, you always think that you're impervious to things of that nature because it's the big S on your chest.
Uh-huh.
It takes you years to figure out that does not stand for Superman. It stands for stupid man. But you don't know that. And you think, well, that happened to them, but that won't happen to me. I won't have a drinking problem just because they did. That's silly. It's not silly. But I don't know that has, the tendencies to, I'm a compulsive kind of person, whether it be smoking, drinking, surfing, whatever. And, it's just like solitaire. I get on that, or gambling. Mm-hmm. I don't care about gambling, but once I start gambling, I'm there till I run out of money, or I get so drunk they throw me out of the casino, one or the other. Both have happened.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I'm just compulsive, and whatever it would have been, that's what I do.
Were you compulsive to go to Hawaii? To want to
Yes,
ride the biggest wave? That was part of it too? And
yeah, I don't know about the biggest waves, but I knew then at least I knew where Hawaii was. I didn't know where Australia was when I went there, but I had a premonition, I guess you could call it, that when I went to Hawaii, I knew I would get there and I knew I would ride big waves.
Yeah.
And I was sure I would get back,
Mm-hmm.
And I did. But that was again, that was during the time that it was the waves that made, nobody was really kind of looking for a reputation. You were trying to stay alive, but if you could make these waves in Hawaii, and get out there and catch them and make them, then you were a good surfer, or a good big wave rider. There was two different kinds of, there was big wave riders and then hot doggers or regular surfers guys. And a lot of people just didn't like big waves. Mm-hmm. Most people didn't like them particularly. And probably most people still don't. And now that I'm getting older, not crazy about them,
Was there anybody you admired in the family that you thought was really...
That I admired in the family?
In your family, yeah, like...
Granddaddy.
You admired him?
Again, that's, because he was the white knight and saved, who knows whether that was the reason that, you admired or you're thankful, but he was a man of integrity, I thought, and responsibility, and is a man of his word, and so there could be a lot to look up to in a man like that. Now, I don't know some of his downsides, and it doesn't really, that's whatever they are is what they are.
Yeah, I remember when we first came out of the orphanage and went to the Mayflower, and we tipped over that planter.
Flower pot thing, yeah, and he was send you back.
And he said he was going to send us.
And then it became, I would chop your surfboard in half, and then it became the California trip, I'm tearing this check up.
Yeah.
I'm writing you one for $50. So he always wanted to have leverage over whoever it was he was dealing with. Well, probably in business was the same way, or, when you worked.
So
I would have a feeling you worked for Walter Marr, not with Walter Marr.
What does that do to you psychologically, though, if you're, when you put yourself back there being a kid and...
Well, I think I respect it. I remember laughing after he left, after he tore the check up when I was going to California, because I said, that's his only hold over me now.
Yeah.
But I just should realize it was his car I was taking to California. But that was another hold, but he didn't use that one, thank God. But I don't know. I feel like I was lucky to have been rescued by Granddaddy.
Out of the orphanage.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
That was a good thing. But it was maybe because he wasn't totally resolved about his own daughter or something. He wasn't clear, so he wasn't totally clear in dealing with us.
Well, I don't think either.
And then he gave a kind of ambivalent message there about maybe I'm going to keep you, maybe I'm not. And then you give him some ambivalent things back. Well, maybe I'm going to do well and maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
Tit for tat.
Maybe that's what it was.
He never said you're going to turn out like your mother.
No, but he never said I love you either.
And he never said I love you either. Okay.
You know, but I wouldn't blame my drinking on the fact that he didn't go to my Little League baseball game or that he didn't say he loved me or anything either. You know, I mean, I felt fine about the, you know, relationship that I had with Granddaddy. It wasn't
Yeah.
the age thing or whatever that I don't know that he wasn't a, and I guess I've never have been a kind of a closey, touchy-feely kind of, you know,
Yeah.
person like that, and I'm not that way either, so maybe it came from him, or
Yeah.
I am with dogs though.
You are with dogs.
Yes.
Dogs and women.
And little kids.
Little kids,
And
dogs, and
if I
women.
drink enough with some women, yes.
All right, well, we'll go and have some birthday dinner, I guess. Any other big surfing stories you want to tell?
No, that was how I got started back again after 15 years of not surfing, was Rusty Miller again. I ran into him, well, I read an article, and that was very strange, spiritual in a way, that reading the Sydney Morning Herald, which I seldom ever read because the Daily Telegraph and the whatever Murdoch's newspapers are, the rags they call them, you know, much easier to read. You can do this. The Sydney Morning Herald's a big thing like New York Times, but for some reason I had that, and I happened to read, I was reading the sports page, and it said, Rusty Miller still can't beat Nat Young. This guy's a world champion, and Rusty was too, but anyway, they said Rusty lives in Byron Bay, you know, so I was up in Surfer's Paradise with Ed Berry and these guys from Alaska getting drunk, and I said, I'll have to go down there and see old Rusty Miller. That's amazing. So I took a bus down there. I got off. I remember I stayed at the veterinarian's. He rented his house out. Anyway, I called somebody. Everybody knew Rusty. A small town like Virginia Beach in the 1950s. And everybody knew Rusty. And maybe I called him up. So he met me at the Great Northern Hotel or something. We had a few beers. And he came by the house and he said, well, we'll go surfing or something. I said, no. I said, I don't surf anymore. He said, yeah, once a surfer, always a surfer. And I said, no, not me. So he got this Takayama Donald. Takayama gave him his board and he had an extra one. So he came by and we went across to the Talos beach there. And I don't think maybe I caught one wave for a little bit or something. I said, I told you I can't surf. And he goes, yeah, you can. He said, I saw, I could tell. I could sit and I saw you could surf. So anyway, I finally got up that year, I think, where I could ride again. It was fun, and there's more longboarders down there, plenty of beaches, and good waves. So then the next year he came by and he said, hey, I stayed there right in Byron Bay, and he said, I'm just going to leave this board with you, which was nice of Rusty because he's a cheap bastard anyway, but he said, I'll leave this with you the whole time you're here, and you can just go surfing whenever you want to. So that year I surfed pretty much, and I got back where I could surf again, you know.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I got Bill Frierson to build me a board. And then I wanted to build me another one, and he kept saying, if you want to have Jacob's board, why don't you get a Hap Jacobs board? I said, I don't know. And then it's funny because Hap Jacobs didn't make surfboards for 15 years. He went sword fishing and had a marina gas station and stuff. And then longboards started coming back, and he started making boards again. And I called him up and said, do you still have that template for that 10-22-4? He said, I sure do. I said, well, I wish you'd make me one. So he did, and gave me some good deals. And so that's how I've got the 3 boards now. They're all the same 10-foot,
Yeah.
same design and everything. And one in Australia and one in Costa Rica and one at the beach.
So Rusty's spiritual connection with you is to get you back to nature?
No, the
instead of just
spiritual thing was reading the Sydney Morning Herald.
Oh, okay.
And how often is Rusty Miller's name going to be
Okay.
in there? Like once in 15 years?
Yeah. And then that got you away from alcohol into surfing again?
Yeah, pretty much, because what it was that if I had been drunk the night before, I felt too bad to go surfing. So I friend Peter Caldwell I'd surf with sometimes, and he'd go, oh, mate, this is southerly coming, we'll have good waves, you know. And I go, okay, well, I can't drink tonight then. So I wouldn't drink, so I could go surfing the next day. And fortunately, the waves were pretty good a lot, so I couldn't drink that night before. And the surfing was worth it.
Yeah.
And it was worth staying sober so I could surf because it was that much fun. And then I started playing golf, and I decided I'd like to get better at golf because my friends in Australia were better at golf.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I could still play golf and drink. That was a problem. But then you could for one or 2 days, but you couldn't keep it up. But surfing, no, you can't do it. So anyway, then I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna play golf, then I won't drink. Well, if I'm gonna surf, I won't drink. So in the summertime, there was very little drinking because I was having too much fun just surfing and playing golf. And if I would have